So as we know, South Australia has opened today. So they did announce a few days ago that they will be opening today, and they have opened with about 500 occupations. So I think there are about 501 occupations on their list. So it's looking very good with South Australia. So we will go through their nomination criteria today. So I would try and explain you as much as I can in this live session, but we will make a separate detailed video as well on our YouTube channel explaining you the different streams. So South Australia has received 2,700 places for the 190 visa and 3,180 places for the 491 visa. So this is a pretty good number. And like I said, they've got 501 occupations, so that is very good as well. They are open for both onshore and offshore applicants. So again, very good news. And most of their occupations are available for offshore applicants as well. Now, before we look at South Australia's criteria, it's very important that you understand that you first have to meet the criteria from the Department of Home Affairs, which is that you need to be under 45 years of age, you need to have positive skills assessment in your nominated occupation, you need to have a minimum point score of 65 points, which includes the state points, and you also need to have competent English unless your nominated occupation requires higher English for the skills assessment to get the positive skills assessment. Okay, so South Australia currently has got 6 streams. So they have actually further simplified their criteria, so which is quite similar to what they had last year. But I think what they have made is they have made it actually easier to understand than last year, because last year they had 3 nomination streams, and then each stream had like 3 or 4 sub streams. So it was very confusing, but now they have made it a little bit more straightforward. So the first one is the South Australian graduates. So they have always had that stream because they do prioritize the graduates who study in South Australia. Then they have the working in South Australia people, the skilled people who are working in South Australia. And then there is a stream for applicants who are living in outer regional South Australia, so not the Greater Adelaide but outside Greater Adelaide. And then they have got a stream for their long-term residents, those residents who have been living in South Australia for a minimum of 5 years. And then they have the highly skilled and talented stream as well, and now they have opened for offshore as well. They did open for offshore last year as well, but then they had really high requirements like 8 years of work experience and things like that. So they have actually simplified the criteria this time. Now let's look at each of the stream one by one. I may not be able to take many questions today because there are like a lot of criteria, and I just want to go through each of the criteria and explain you in detail. So for the South Australian graduates, you are considered a South Australian graduate if you have completed a minimum of 50% of your qualification in South Australia. And you must have resided in South Australia for at least 1 year during your studies. And you must have undertaken your skilled work experience post-course completion, because there are some occupations where you do require some work experience. So when they're asking you work experience from the graduates, they mean post-course completion. And each occupation will have their own minimum work experience requirement for the graduate. So some occupations, they may require you to work 30 hours a week or 60 hours per fortnight, but most occupations, they require you to work 20 hours per week or 40 hours per fortnight. For some of the occupations. But if you're looking at 190 nomination, they expect that you're working minimum of 30 hours per week. So if you are a South Australian graduate who has not continuously resided in South Australia after completing your qualification, so let's say you got your temporary graduate visa, then you moved out, then you went back again to South Australia, then you must be working at least 30 hours per week for the minimum working period. So if your occupation requires, let's say, 6 months work experience or 3 months work experience, so you need to be working 30 hours per week to meet that experience requirement. Now they also have high performing graduates stream. So they have not specified it in the nomination criteria, but each occupation would have their own GPA requirement. And also they have clarified what it means like for high performing graduate requirements. So if you're a PhD or master's by research degree, You can apply once your degree has been conferred. And if you are a master's by coursework degree, your master's degree must be at least 78 weeks, like should be registered on course for 78 weeks. And if you're a first class honors in a dedicated honors year, your honors year must have followed the completion of a 92 course week bachelor degree in South Australia. And if you're a bachelor's degree graduate, your bachelor's degree must be at least 92 course weeks, and you must have commenced skilled employment in an occupation related to your nominated occupation. So just to clarify it further, if you will go and look at their occupations, let's say if you want to go and look at ICT business analyst, they have then different streams, right? So if you look at look under the South Australian graduate, so for a 190 visa, they want you to be working in Greater Adelaide for 6 months to be eligible for the 190 visa. And for provisional visa, for provisional 491 visa, they want you to be working for at least 3 months in Adelaide or outer regional South Australia to be eligible for a 491 visa. So these are some of the requirements, and you must have completed a bachelor qualification in SA that meets the South Australian study requirements. So which is that your bachelor degree must be at least 92 course weeks. You must have commenced skilled employment in an occupation related to your nominated occupation. So under high performing graduate of South Australia, so they have mentioned that you must have proficient language only, proficient English language, and you must have a GPA of 6.0 or higher. So you will have to meet those requirements if you want to apply under the high performing graduate of South Australia. So the next stream they have is working in South Australia. So again, after meeting the basic requirements, they want you to be working in South Australia post-course completion, and you need to meet the minimum work experience requirement, which is listed for your occupation. So each occupation may have their own requirements. Some may ask you for 6 months work experience, some may ask you for 12 months, and some may ask you for 18 months as well. And you must be working at least 20 hours per week or 40 hours per fortnight, unless specified higher for your nominated occupation on the skilled occupation list. Now, again, let's look at the same example, ICT business analyst. So this occupation is open under working in South Australia for both 190 and 491 visa. And for a 190 visa, they want you to be working for the last 24 months in Greater Adelaide or 12 months in regional South Australia. And for provisional subclass 491 visa, you must have been working in your nominated occupation or a related occupation for the last 12 months in Greater Adelaide or 6 months in regional South Australia. Let's take one more example of motor mechanic. So that occupation is also open for both 190 and 491 visa. And if you want a 190 visa, then you must be working in your occupation or related occupation for at least 6 months in regional South Australia. And for a 491 visa, you could be working for 12 months in Greater Adelaide or just 3 months in regional South Australia to be eligible for a 491 visa. Now, please note that all Greater Adelaide applicants must be working full-time, at least 35 hours per week or 70 hours per fortnight. And temporary skills shortage visa subclass 482 holders must have been working in either Greater Adelaide or regional South Australia for at least 6 months for 491 visa and for at least 12 months for the 190 nomination. So this is the requirement for motor mechanic. And like I said, each occupation may have their own requirements. Okay, so let's have a look at the third stream, which is the outer regional South Australia. So like the stream suggests, that you need to be living and working outside of Greater Adelaide. And if you've been working for the past 6 months in outer regional South Australia in any job, so it does not have to be related to your nominated occupation. Now, during these 6 months, you must have worked at least 30 hours per week or 60 hours per fortnight. And if you're a working holiday maker visa holder, your specified work experience can count towards the work experience requirement. This is because you do not need to be working in your nominated occupation. Now, this is actually better than last year, because last year they wanted you to be working there for 12 months, but then the hourly, the working hours were less. So they only wanted 20 hours last year, but now they want you to be working 30 hours, but they are offering you a 491 visa after 6 months. But if you're working in a high skilled position, which is skill level 1 or 2, and receiving a high salary, which is at least 65,000, you could apply for 190 visa nomination. Now, please note that it does not have to be related to your nominated occupation, but as long as it's skill level 1 or 2, you could go for a 190, and if you meet the 65,000 annual salary requirement. You will also need to provide a letter of support from your employer outlining why you should be considered for state nomination. Now, there are also some requirements from the employer. The employer must be outside Greater Adelaide, and there must be an existing business for at least 12 months and have a premise located and operating in outer regional South Australia for the past 12 months, and be a business of good standing, and there must be no adverse information about the business. Now, please note all the occupations, I think there are about 500 occupations, they are eligible under this stream. If you could have a skills assessment in any occupation on the list, and you could be living and working outside in outer regional South Australia for 6 months, any occupation, and you will qualify for a 491. So the next stream that they have is the long-term residence. So you need to be residing continuously in South Australia for the past 5 years at the time of application, not at the time of invitation. So when you apply, you should have completed 5 years already to be eligible under this stream. And you also need to be currently working for the past 6 months in South Australia in any skill level 1, 2, 3 or skill level 4 carer and aid occupation. And you must have a total of 12 months total work experience in South Australia in any skill level 1, 2, 3 or skill level 4 carer and aid occupation over the past 3 years. So you need to be working in from the last 6 months in any occupation, skill level 1 to 4, but then you also need the 12 months of total work experience over the past 3 years. So it doesn't have to be continuous. Okay, so this is cumulative and inclusive of the 6 months requirement outlined above. During these 12 months of work experience, you must have worked at least, so for the subclass 491 visa nomination, you must have worked 20 hours per week or 40 hours per fortnight, and for 190 visa nomination, 30 hours per week or 60 hours per fortnight, and be working in a high skilled position, skill level 1, or be receiving a high salary, at least 80,000 in Greater Adelaide or 65,000 in regional South Australia. So under the long-term resident, you do have the option of applying for 190 as well, but your position should be at skill level 1, or you should be receiving a high salary. So if your nominated occupation is, let's say, accountant, taxation accountant, management accountant, external auditors, chefs, motor mechanics, then you must have been working for at least past 6 months in outer regional South Australia or the past 12 months in Greater Adelaide. And even for cook as well, you must have been working for at least the past 6 months in outer regional South Australia. So these are like additional caveats for these occupations. Now, again, all occupations are open for long-term residents, but note that some occupations may only be available for 491. For some occupations, 190 is not available. Okay, so let's have a look at the next stream, which is the highly skilled and talented applicants. So as the name suggests, it is for applicants who are highly skilled and talented. And then if you think that you fall under this category, you will have to submit a registration of interest first. Now, you must be earning a high base salary threshold with the expectations of the highly skilled and talented stream, at least 80,000 per annum. And you must be working full-time. So for them, full-time is about 30 hours per week or 60 hours per fortnight. You could be living in South Australia, interstate or overseas. So this stream is open to all applicants. But if you're an onshore applicant, then you could be living in South Australia or interstate, and you must have demonstrated extensive experience working in highly skilled jobs in senior or executive level roles. Demonstrate that you meet one of the following. So one of the following is either have already commenced employment in South Australia, or you may have an employment contract for a position you plan to relocate to in South Australia. You're also able to apply if you're currently working for a company interstate and intend to relocate to the South Australian office of your current company, or have demonstrated specialized experience or niche skills that are highly desired in one of South Australia's critical priority sectors. So you could do like a submission and explain how you have the specialized experience. Now, your employer will also have to meet some requirements. They need to be running the business for 12 months, so they need to be an existing business for at least 12 months. Your employer must have a premise located and operating in South Australia for the past 12 months. They must have an annual turnover of at least $4 million. Now, please note that startup companies may be exempt from the annual turnover requirement, and businesses who operate in outer regional South Australia may be exempt from the annual turnover requirement, and the business must be of good standing, and there must be no adverse information about the business. So these are the requirements for the onshore applicants. Now for the offshore applicants, they can also apply under this category. So they must have demonstrated extensive experience working in senior or executive level roles in highly skilled jobs in international renowned organizations or multinational companies with a presence in South Australia, or have demonstrated specialized experience or niche skills that are highly desired in one of South Australia's critical priority sectors. Now, currently, these sectors include high-tech, digital, green energy, hydrogen, defense, space and cybersecurity, advanced manufacturing, agribusiness, creative industries, health and life sciences. Now, again, all occupations are available under this stream as well. Okay, now then the sixth stream, which is the last stream. If you're a skilled migrant currently living offshore who has submitted an expression of interest using the Commonwealth Government Skills Select system, you may be selected by South Australia and invited to apply for state nomination. So you guys will have to lodge the EOI. Now, you know how last year they had for each occupation, they mentioned how many points they need, what kind of English they're looking at, what kind of experience they're looking at. So this time they have not put anything specific for any occupation, but what they are saying is that they will be assessing candidates on merit by some factors within their nominated occupation. For example, they may want to look at your years of skilled employment, they will look at your English language ability, and of course they'll look at your EOI points as well. If you're selected to apply for South Australian nomination, you will have 14 days to submit your application. Your application must demonstrate that you were eligible for the claims entered in your Skill Select EOI at the time of invitation. So if you're an applicant in priority nominated occupation, you may be selected to apply for the 190 visa, which would allow you to live and work in South Australia indefinitely. If you're a highly skilled migrant currently living offshore who can contribute your demonstrated talent or support innovation in South Australia, you may also directly register your interest in state nomination. So we already talked about the highly skilled and talented stream. So offshore applicants can also apply in that stream. So offshore applicants can actually apply under two streams. One is, of course, the offshore stream, and then there is also highly skilled and talented stream if you meet the requirements of that stream. So again, some occupations you will notice are only available for the 491 visa and not for the 190 visa. Okay, so these were the 6 streams for South Australia. So if you are looking at applying with South Australia, as you know that they are open today, you may want to get in touch with us. We are offering consultations for South Australia. You could book with me for South Australia's nomination. I'm happy to take just a few questions. Okay, so I may not be able to go through each occupation because I've already taught you how you can go and have a look at each of your occupation and see what the requirements are. So let's have a look at this one. We'll probably have a look at maybe a couple. Okay, so 491 offshore engineering technologist with 80 points and 5+ work experience. Look, your work experience is good, but again, engineering technologist, you know how many people apply under that occupation, and I think there are quite a lot of applicants with 5+ years, but I would definitely try. So you still have a chance. On the list for offshore, you have to give me the code for that one. Financial investment advisor. Let's have a look. Yes, it is open. So if you have some work experience, good EY points, you should definitely try for this. And this occupation is actually only available for 491. Okay. Which is the best trade course for South Australia? Look, depends. You know that chef and motor mechanic are quite competitive, but this time I think they're still offering pretty good options for motor mechanics, especially. So it really depends because you also have to consider that there are not many trade occupations that you can study, like not many trade courses that you can study in South Australia. There are very limited trade courses, but we have some applicants who are studying maybe really niche kind of trade courses in Melbourne, Sydney, because there are only few colleges who offer those courses. But once they have completed the course, maybe for the job ready program, they go to South Australia, and the requirement is usually 3 to 6 months of work experience under their skilled workers category. So that could also be an option you may want to consider. South Australia EY last year with 80 points, including state points. What are the chances? Um, yeah, look, have you mentioned, okay, ICT trainer. Yeah, so you'll have to see, I think your occupation is open, but very competitive occupation as well. So if it's 80 points, including state points, I think the points are quite less. See if you can increase the points. ICT security specialist, offshore, 8 years of very, very good work experience. So like I said, they are looking at work experience. Then they are obviously looking at your English. Then they are also looking at your EY points. But I think they give very high preference to applicants with more skilled employment. Okay, Tasmania, I think it should open soon. I think they're still going through the applications from last year. So I believe they should announce something soon. Chef, 65 points, have full-time contract and 1 year work experience. Yeah, Viranga, you'll have to see what the requirements are. Of course, chef is very competitive for South Australia. So you will be applying under the working in South Australia. So for 190, they need a 12 months work experience in regional South Australia. And for 491, they need 6 months in regional South Australia. So looks like you have options if you're working in regional South Australia and not actually in Adelaide. Marketer, 9 years work experience. Yes, so that could be marketing specialist. If that one is open, then definitely you should try. Offshore web developer, 85 points, 75 compete in English. I would work on the English. Your experience is pretty good because with the English, yeah, your points will really shoot up. And again, very competitive occupation. So try to get higher points. Convert sooner. Okay. So we'll have to go through your profile. We'll have to look at your occupation, your points, and then probably go through each state. And with, like I always say with offshore applicants, I think you should try wherever you can. Like if your occupation is open in all states, you should try in all states. Mechanical engineer offshore, 85 points. I would try and increase the points, and then it also depends on the work experience. Like they do give a lot of preference and priority to applicants with higher work experience. ICT support engineer, 90 points. Total. Yeah, I know that Queensland has started sending invites, and for most of the IT occupations, we have seen invites at 95, 100 points, but hopefully it will come down. So you do have a chance. Okay, I think I've already answered that one. Answered that one as well. Can we apply for both highly skilled? I think you can, because for offshore, you just have to submit your EY, and for highly skilled, you'll have to do the registration of interest. But I have to check because I haven't looked, how they've got frequently asked questions. I'm sure this could have been answered there as well. So I haven't looked at that one yet. So probably have a look at it or maybe send them an email. Meets eligibility. I think that was some kind of error, so you could ignore that. ICT support engineer, New South Wales, 85. Let's see, because New South Wales have not released their occupation list and the work experience requirement, so we'll see what they come up with. At the same time, if okay, so when you submit an expression of interest with the state, you would have to actually do separate expression of interest for each state. You cannot do like a combined one for all states. They don't usually pick that up. Accounting is a little bit hard in Queensland because they have some caveats as well for this occupation. Which state would be good choice to relocate without experience for IT graduates? South Australia, outside Greater Adelaide, if you're not working in your nominated occupation. ROI is for the highly skilled applicants. So those applicants will only have to submit ROI. Okay, I'll just take a couple more. Electrical engineer offshore, 80 points, 12 years experience, profession English. So that's good. Make sure that you get your employment assessed for for the skilled employment that you're claiming, but good chances with that work experience. Market research analyst, offshore, 90 points, work experience 6 years. So we'll have to see. I think your occupation is open. So let's have a look. So yeah, I think you should try that. 90 points. So I'm not sure if that's for 491. I think it's only open for 491 anyway. So good points. And I think usually people go for marketing specialist and not for market research analyst. So I would say probably you have a chance. All right, guys. So these are all the questions that I wanted to answer today. If you have any more questions, just leave them in the comments. I may just do another Q&A video next week and I should be able to answer them there. And like I said, if you are looking at applying with South Australia and you need help with that, please get in touch with us. You can go to our website www.sumandua.com.au and go to the book online page, and then there are different categories that you can book under. So you may want to book under the South Australia nomination category. And then we have got other types of consultations as well. And there are some consultations we offer for free, like professional year program, change of course, student visa, 485 visa as well. And then we've got some more consultations like 408 visa, tourist visas, parent visas, then the AAT appeals, and then the employer-sponsored visa. So see what consultation you would like to go for, and you book under that category. So all the best to everybody who is going to try with South Australia. Thank you.